Greg.
Tom.
How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Yeah, mate, I'm great. I am genuinely, obviously, a bit of a funny time, but I am tickety-boo, feeling great, feeling fine. Yeah, everything's good. What about you?
I'm okay. I was going to say I've just got back, but I haven't just got back because it feels like it was a while ago now. Because we haven't.
Can I just do a terrible intro to this?
Yes.
I'll tell you a story.
There we go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That will make much more sense when you start speaking.
I'm not going to tell the story now, so it won't make any sense.
No.
No, I haven't just got back from Arles, but I went to Arles this year, which is, for those of you that don't know, is a festival in the south of France. I haven't really gone to photo festivals for a long time. Arles Arts Festival, and it turns out there's a lot of festivals in quite nice parts of the world that I was fully unaware of.
Perpignan?
Perpignan's a photojournalism one. There's Cadaqués, which is in Spain. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. There's a couple in Italy, some in the far south, and
It's
I'm
pronounced
sure there's
forsooth.
and I'm sure there's plenty more. They tend to be a bit kind of out of my radar because they're more for the arts world, and so kind of photographers who work with galleries and what have you, which is not really my realm of the industry. But really interesting thing to go to. We used to go as a studio, and then COVID happened, and we haven't been for a few years. But it's a kind of nice thing to go and do with a bunch of people. Rent a villa and kind of get some bicycles and just cycle into town. It's a very kind of relaxed affair. It's the type of thing that you wish Photo London could be, but never will be because it's in London.
Doesn't have the climate. Yeah, I was going to say.
It doesn't have the climate. It's all a bit too centered around Somerset House, which is a great venue. Well, it's got loads of space. And it's nice in a way that it's centered because you can go in and do like a day trip and see everything. But
that there right there is the problem, right? It's a day trip. You go in, you do the stuff, you go, or you maybe go to an evening thing, as opposed to being immersed in it for like, how long were you there for? A week?
Yeah. So they do a week. The festival runs for a month, but the first week is kind of when most of the photo kind of world go. And I think if Photo London was more of a kind of 2-week thing or a 3-week thing, and you had different events that went on at different places, I think it would be amazing. Like there'd be so much audience for it in terms of photographers based in London and art buyers and galleries and all of that stuff. The industry's there, but it just we don't seem to have created the kind of the festival to go with it. I mean, Photo Paris is very popular, but is older than Photo London. And Arles has been going for years, like decades. But so it's very well established, and you kind of go there and there's lots of small galleries that open up in basically above shops, and there's lots of fringe events that happen. And
they do hair cutting there as well.
Probably. I mean, maybe that could be your thing. But yeah, it's the Fuji had a kind of an event there, which they're also running in London, I believe, in September. Okay. They're running one in London and one somewhere else. So I was able to go along to that and pick up some lenses and try them out and try a new camera out, but also kind of go to lots of galleries and shows. Yeah. On
the Fujifilm stand, were there what were you able to photograph?
So it wasn't really a stand. It was
okay.
It was a whole house, and that you went in, and they had an amazing show of Magnum slides that I'd never seen before, like the actual slides all on a wall on massive light boxes. So you had to like really kind of look in close, but there were some amazing pictures there from the archive because Fuji have been working with Magnum to digitize a lot of their archive using their GFX cameras.
Oh, interesting.
So
okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a big partnership that they're doing. And supposedly, I think there's a lot of stuff to do with Fuji color and the way it renders color, and that's why they went with them, etc., and the size of the sensor. Right. But yeah, in terms of what I was able to, basically you can take the camera and just go off around town. So
Okay.
you just have it for an hour or two. So I took one of the Polaroids out, and then I took one of the new XE5s out with the pancake 23mm lens that they're
What's
bringing
that
out.
like?
Love it. I've pre-ordered one. I
Oh.
don't think I'll get it till December because at earliest, because it's going to be very popular. But it's such a nice size. I mean, it meant I kind of came back from Arles and sold my X100. I was like, I don't need this anymore. I don't use it. And as soon as I get that pancake
you
lens,
had the Mark
6, I had the most
6.
recent one, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Which
Wow.
was still quite hard to get hold of, I think.
Right. Okay. Stupid question.
Hmm.
I'm literally looking at it now.
Hmm.
Right. Devil's advocate looks very much like an X100.
What, the lens?
No, just the
size of it.
literally the whole thing.
See, the thing with an X100 is because it's got a leaf shutter.
XE5.
Now, I'm talking about the 23mm pancake lens.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Right, so it's
The
got a leaf
lens,
shutter.
not the XE5. I'm not getting the XE5. I've pre-ordered the lens.
Oh, sorry. I thought,
Yes.
right, got it. Because you
It's an
sold the whole camera,
Yes.
and then you just bought the lens.
This is an interchangeable, so this will go
So
on
what-
any of the Fuji XF mounts.
Okay, right. No, I get that. But what are you going to then run it on?
Probably on my old X Pro 2,
Ah, right.
which is
okay.
a 12-year-old camera, but is still fantastic, and I absolutely love it.
And you like the lens?
The lens is great, yeah, but just partly the size of it. It's very well put together. It's a 2.8. Obviously, the Fuji X100 had an f2, but that's because it's a leaf shutter, and so they can design it to be faster, given the way it fits on the body, because it doesn't have to come off the body. But obviously, a detachable lens, the engineering's slightly different in the way that they manufacture the glass. So,
what did that become? Like a 28 mil?
no, 35. So it's a 23mm becomes a 35.
So is there like a 1.6 crop on it? Is there?
Is it 1? I'm no good at maths. I can't remember if it's a 1.3 or 1.5, 1.6. I think it's a 1.5.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, so that's about 34 and a half. That's pretty much bang on. Okay. Awesome.
So, but anyway, to get back to Arles, really useful thing to go and do if you're looking to broaden, I guess, your idea of photography and the work, and seeing loads of different shows, lots of different exhibitions, loads of publications and books, huge book stands everywhere. And lots of people to bump into. I kind of wish, and I think if I go again next year, I'll probably take a mic and actually do some little field recordings.
Here's the thing, Greg. I mean, I don't want to be that guy, but you could invite me.
You could. I'm not sure you'd like it.
No, probably not. The idea of being stuck in the south of France, surrounded by photography, does sound truly awful.
But it's definitely like the conversations I was having. There's a few people that I got hooked up with through the show. Shout out to a couple of our patrons who were like, "Oh, you're there. You should speak to so and so, and you should speak to." So I had a couple of meetings with people just off the bat of recommendations, and had really fascinating conversations. They were mainly photographers, but from one guy was from Australia. I met quite a few photographers from kind of France and Germany. And yeah, just a lot of, it's always interesting to kind of be having chats with people who work in the different areas of the industry that you're familiar with, because their experiences are so different.
I think we definitely should send you out as our roving reporter.
Well, I might, if I go again, I might well do that. But then
you say if you go again, this isn't your first trip out though, is it? You've been quite a few times.
This is my third trip out there.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't said we didn't go for a while because of COVID and then kids and everything else. So, but yeah, it was nice to get back in the saddle. So that was good, and I feel like came back from it quite. What's the word I'm looking for? Kind of
recharged.
Yeah, recharged, kind of rejuvenated, bit excited, and I guess inspired. Really, to it's always interesting to see the. You're going to see work that's really good, and you're also going to see work that you kind of go, meh. And I think both of them serve a purpose.
Glad you saw my exhibition.
I think both of them serve a purpose, because actually seeing work that you're not that excited by or impressed by, but the fact that it other people are, enough for it to be in a show, is testament to the fact that it takes all sorts of photography, and there's room for all sorts of different types of work, and there's an audience for all sorts of different types of work. The work doesn't have to land 100% with people. It just has to land with enough people for it to be worthwhile. And so in a way, that's quite good if you're kind of working on something and you don't fully, you're not sure if it's going to land. There is space for all sorts of work, is basically what I'm saying. In a kind way, in a
nice way. No, I appreciate that. I think it would be, when you say you don't think I'd like it, were you being serious? Is it a bit, because the problem is, me, I'm not fancy pants, right? And when people kind of do too much of a deep dive into the art side of things, I do tend to go, oh, I might go somewhere else.
I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if you'd like it. I think, everyone gets something different out of those events. Perpignan was a very different type of festival. Perpignan's more focused at photojournalism, and I haven't been to that for 15 years. I went a couple of times to that, and that was very good fun, quite rowdy in comparison. You can imagine a bunch of photojournalists rocking up in a small French town. It kind of caused quite a lot of carnage. But yeah, I'm not sure how that festival is these days, and I know it's still going, but I don't know how popular it is. I mean, there must all be an element of competition between them all. Some of them come in and out of vogue, But some big names at Arles this year. Nan Golden had an exhibition. There was loads. I mean, there's huge names that go to these things. So it's a good place to go and see work. But yeah, so came back feeling quite rejuvenated. I'm feeling a little bit, if I'm chatting and waffling too much, I've been up since 4:30 this morning. So I've been out shooting since, I was in town at 5.
Oh, on a job?
Yeah, kind of a quite kind of roving job. So quite just me out with a camera, basically. But I was out yesterday morning and we just didn't have the light for it. So I was out again this morning.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, those kind of things. I mean, you're talking about trying to get motivated. I think just getting out with a camera in nice light for me is something that really you come back and you're kind of buzzing from it.
Well, let's talk about resilience. Obviously, that was a bit of a theme from the chat with James a couple of weeks ago. Which the feedback from that's been amazing. What a great episode! Thank you again to James for taking the time to come on. The thing, though, saying that kind of the trait that seems to run through all the successful people he's seen is resilience. You say getting out, camera in hand, and just taking the time for yourself is kind of just take some of the stress off.
I think it's about getting your eye. It all depends on what you shoot, really. I think because I shoot quite a lot of observed photography, it's important for me to spend time getting my eye in. And so whenever I go out cold and start trying to take pictures in that vein, it takes a while to kind of warm up. And I've heard people talking about this kind of, especially street photographers that talk about kind of, their warm-up pictures that they just need to start shooting, and you're going to take a lot of crap to start with before your eye starts to get back into the groove a little bit, and you start to, that muscle memory comes back in.
But I agree with that. The first, I'll normally try and do a couple of like personal shoots at the very start of the year, because I've found that after I've had, a couple of weeks off over Christmas and probably a kind of a slightly slower end to the year, December tends to be kind of like, a little bit quiet as you head towards Christmas, that I also, have to have those kind of warm up shoots, really, just kind of kick myself back into gear a little bit. And I'd much rather do that practicing in the studio or something like that rather than on a commercial job for a client who's going, well, you feel a bit rusty there, which wouldn't be great.
I think generally, like it's more internal, isn't it? It's the work normally. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's about kind of getting your mind back in the right space to be shooting. But yeah, it's always, I think it's always time well spent, and it's something that I've constantly struggled with, to justify. Well, I have a
Mm.
lot of respect for street photographers that just go out and they pound the street for, when we had Josh K. Jackson on a few episodes back, he'll do probably what on a day walking. I imagine he probably does 20,000 steps at least.
Oh yeah, by
You,
by
you
the
know,
sounds of it, like minimum.
so he's doing hours and hours and hours for maybe a handful of pictures that he's happy with. But the fact that he keeps coming back and doing that, and it's a real discipline to do that. And the thing that I always struggled with that was knowing that I had that VAT return to do, and that person to email, and that newsletter to finish, and that thing to invoice for, and that pre-production, to get on with. So there was always other stuff that felt like it was more important, because unless you're being paid by a client, it felt like, well, this is what am I doing? But actually, going out there and putting the time in just for yourself, I think is really important. But it is always the first thing that goes for me. I mean,
Oh,
I guess it's
I
the
think
same
it's,
as doing personal work.
but I think it's the first thing that goes for probably most people listening. Probably people are listening, going, "Yeah, yeah, that's me as well." And I think it's just that it's funny, isn't it? Because I was chatting, was it us chatting yesterday? I think it was, and I was saying, I'm off on holiday, right? So I'm kind of quiet for a few days to get everything kind of finished up and stuff. And I've never felt busier when I've got less on.
Yeah.
There's always something to do. There's always a to-do list. And the to-do list never seems to get any shorter,
No.
because I'll tick something off and then a phone call will come in and then I'll suddenly be like, okay, well, I've got 3 more things to add to the list. And it feels very much like I'm trying to put out a fire with a pipette.
Yeah.
It's like, it's raging inferno. And I'm like, and it is exhausting, isn't it?
Hmm.
Just the constant, uh, just the constant amount of tasks because we wear every hat. Right? There are some people who don't wear every hat and they employ other people, but then on the flip side of that, they've obviously got the higher overheads. So
Hmm.
when work slows down, they still have to pay out, all those people. And it's great that we've got the ability to do that. But at the same time, there's going to be things that suddenly become less of a priority. And I think for most people, it's definitely the case for myself, is that the priority stops being your
Hmm.
welfare, and this is, I think, why we all find it so easy to burn out,
Yeah.
is you suddenly go, oh God, when was the last time I went for a walk or took the camera out just for fun or just took a few minutes to just sit and read a book or be mindful or
I think
just
I think
not do
one thing
anything.
that helps with that is trying to find ways to have passive income as well, whether or not that
Hmm.
be through licensing or side hustles or other things that kind of bring in money. Because one of the big problems for a lot of photographers is they're only being paid if they're producing. And so if you have a couple of weeks where you don't have any shoots, that really starts to put the pressure on you. And also if you're ill, you're sick, or you have an injury or anything like that, and you're spending time away, you're not able to fully recuperate and get better, and because you're kind of stressing about the fact that you're not able to work, and unless you're working, you're not earning money. So trying to find ways to create passive incomes is, I think, really important, and it's only going to become more important, I think, for people.
Yep. Agreed. And I think it's also just we're such a interesting breed. Photographers are. I always kind of talk about this because I find us fascinating as like a group. Right? We're super resilient. We're super flexible. Turn our hands to a lot of things. I think it's because a lot of us are neurodivergent, but it really does make me kind of like worry less about everything that's going on currently, and it also makes me very excited to see where people are suddenly kind of forking off and going, well, I'm going to go off and do this, I'm forking off and going and doing that, and you go, great, that's amazing. I did not see that in your arsenal, but
Mm.
glad you can do it. So yeah, I do think it is interesting. But talking about making time for yourself, the guilt that comes with it when you do it is odd, especially if you have a family and stuff like that.
Mm,
I think when you're not working, the kind of the flip of that is that you should be with the family, or
mm.
which is obviously amazing, right? Wonderful, very lucky to have it. But it's also quite an intense thing, especially when you have small children. So trying to then go from an intense day at work with no breakwater if you've worked from home or whatnot, and then having no kind of breakwater to then just dive straight into that, and then quite often going back to then working at night. I think it's no
Well,
wonder
that's
people
when you have
burn
to
out.
put parameters in, isn't it? I don't work at night really. Like, although I found that my most productive is late afternoon for me,
Mhm.
which is bizarre because I thought I was kind of maybe a morning person. And I think previously I would have worked into the evening, and I have historically worked kind of late at night as well, but it just doesn't fit with my pattern of life now. So
Mhm.
you have to, and as you age, your kind of body rhythms change, and when you're kind of most active and most switched on changes as well.
Yeah.
But
I'm
yeah,
trying. I'm trying now to kind of like treat sleep like it's a bit sacred,
hmm,
because actually, you know, I'm up at 6 a.m. every day. And you're talking about being up at 4 the
hmm,
other day for a shoot. I had to go and shoot Danny Boyle on Westminster Bridge, and we had to have it empty because we were basically, a nod to the 28 days later scene with Cillian Murphy. So I had him on the bridge on his own at 5 a.m., quarter to 5.
hmm.
But it meant, because obviously I live out of town, I was up at 2 a.m. to basically get myself out of bed, dressed, ready, everything kind of like just the gear triple packed and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's if you're going to bed at midnight on 2 hours sleep, that's quite hard work. So,
Yes. So,
but what are the other ways kind of that you could kind of breed resilience? Because I think for me, it's a tough time as far as like, trying to get meetings, trying to get your work in front of people. I sent out a mailer the other week. So I sent, I think, 250 mailers out in the end.
yeah, physical
Um,
mailer.
Physical mailer, right? Yeah, 'cause it wouldn't be very many emails, would it? But a physical mailer, and it was all hand stamped, hand packed, hand wrapped. It was a very, very nice handmade thing, but it took me 2 weeks to put it all together.
Hmm.
And I kind of sent it off, and I was like, yeah, it's gone. And then obviously, because I now kind of subscribe to the done is better than perfect thing, I just needed to get it out because I still wanted to catch a bit of summer. It was a barbecue project.
Hmm.
So I wanted to catch the remnants of summer. And I sent it out, probably to land on people's desks in mid-July. And obviously there's so many people on holiday.
Hmm.
And what I've learned now is that a lot of people are in the office so little that they might not be in for a few weeks. So
Yeah.
then how do you gauge the follow-up on that? Because some people are also away for holidays and things like that. And then I went in and had a meeting at a production company. I was like, oh, hey, did you get the nice mailer I sent you? And they were, oh, we never go down to the mailroom. And I'm like, oh, cool. So there's probably just a stack of photographers' mailers
Yeah.
that just overflowing out of these boxes. And I won't lie, I felt a bit. I felt a bit like, oh, that was a huge amount of effort, a real like proper Goliath effort from me. Took over the whole studio. It's been, it was a proper, but also going right back to the, sourcing all the products and getting the stamps made and finding the right type of twine and all that kind of malarkey. And I was just like, oh, right, okay. I don't
The,
know if I don't know
the
if I
thing
bother
is,
again.
the thing is with the physical mailer is it sits with people for a long time, far longer than an email does. Emails are literally like newspapers in terms of their news today, and the tomorrow they're the wrapping for the fish and chips. But a mailer that's physical will stay with somebody, and it might not be. It might be a year, 2 years down the line that they look at that and go, "Oh yeah." I mean, I still have mailers from. I mean, one of our patrons, actually, James, he sent me a newspaper he did, and it must have been about 15 years ago, and I still have it somewhere.
Mm.
because I remember thinking, oh, this is a really nicely designed piece of work. I enjoyed looking at it. At the time, I hadn't seen many newspapers, and it was newspapers as in photographers' newspapers. I'd seen newspapers. I was aware of the concept, but it was just a really nice thing to have, and I couldn't kind of bear to throw it away because I enjoyed looking at it. So that means that it then sits on a bookshelf, and that can sit on as I said, that can sit there for 15 years. You just never know with the mailer how long it's going to be held on for. I mean, it's
Well,
kind of heartbreaking to think that some of them will also be thrown in the bin, but
I mean, yeah,
hopefully recycling. But
I'm sure that'll happen. But I would like to think, I mean, the feedback I've had from the people who have messaged me have been like, love the care, love the attention to detail. It's beautifully presented. And you go, okay, well, that's
but
really
I couldn't
lovely.
eat it. So.
I couldn't eat it. Yeah. They were like, it's lovely feedback. So if people are thinking that and are not mailing me that, well, then that makes me feel a bit better. But, I think with these things, you always want every single person you send these out to reply, which is obviously never going to happen. Right. But it is a bit of a, but you just have to kind of go, okay, well, what's the lessons learned on this one? Well, I'm not going to do such a big mailer in the future. So none of it will take as much time to do. And it's little lessons, I guess, you learn like that. And I think they're just having the thick skin and just not basically being like, damn, kind of wish that I'd done more, but hey ho, move on. I think that's probably what I just have to kind of have more of.
Yeah. I think photographers struggle with that in general because it's really hard to disassociate yourself from the work and how much the work defines you as a person, and therefore if that work lands or doesn't land, what that says about you as a person, etc. Right? We put too much currency on that.
Which is funny though, isn't it? Because we're always told more and more to put us into our work. And so then we put us into trying to do everything. So every touch point, you kind of go, well, that feels like me everywhere. And then it's hard then to not take that personally.
Yes. Well, like James was saying on the last episode, the idea that you can look at a photographer's work and understand who they are as a person. And that's because subconsciously you bleed into every part of it. So yeah, that is hard then to kind of feel like someone doesn't like the work. It's like, well, that basically means you don't like me.
Well, yeah, but then I meet them and obviously I charm them round. But it's hard, like to not take that.
Yeah, of course. It's totally understandable. Totally understandable.
On a plus note, talking to other photographers, everyone seems to be having similar experiences and stuff like that. So you actually go, okay, well, it's not personal.
No, it's all about having perspective. And I think, because most photographers are solitary beings who spend a lot of time in their own company, you become too in your head about these things rather than just actually stepping back from it and being, it's not about me. It's there's other things going on.
There's a lot going on.
There is.
So,
but I want to get to the point where all our listeners always want to know is what kit have you bought this week, Tom?
Right. Okay. So now I have bought something.
Yeah.
But I now don't buy anything unless there's a real need for it.
Stop hitting us with your caveats.
No. So
no one's buying it. Apart from you. Literally.
Right. So the thing is, I did a job the other day, a nice commercial job, had a couple of assistants on it. And at the end, so I provide the kit for most of my jobs, right? Because I find it a nice way of being able to make sure all the kit's, in perfect working order and in really good condition.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, I love having my logo sprayed on everything. So it's just nice to show that off. Number three, from a cost point of view, I can make money on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can also then use it as a little bit of a bargaining chip. So I can just say, if the client's like, oh, we've got this budget, I'm like, okay, well, the way I can make that work is I can do this, and this with the kit. And because I have it all, it's just a case of just packing what I need, which is great. And so at the end of every job, and anyone who's listening to this, who's ever assisted me will know that I do this. At the end of each job, when obviously I've gone around and thanked everyone for being involved and all their hard work and stuff, I will sit with my assistants for a couple of minutes, normally after the car's packed. I'm like, listen, what needs to change? Is there anything that's missing? What can I do? Because I believe in Kaizen. So every single time, slight improvements. What can I do? What can I do to make the kit better? And the other day, for the first time, they said, no, everything's good. I think there was one thing missing, and I basically had one, and a second vice clamp would have been helpful. And by the way, obviously I work closely with the Avenger and Manfrotto guys. They sent me some stickers. Right, I have to. I love a sticker, right? I really do. These might be the funnest or most fun, ones that I have received photography-wise, right? So they sent me some nice logo ones.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, obviously, everyone knows what the logos are like, but have you ever seen super clamp stickers, which are fun, right?
Wow.
No, it gets better, because have you ever seen vice clamp stickers?
Okay, no.
Which I thought was
Cardellini clamps, or whatever they're called.
Well, yeah. So the Manfrotto versions are called vice clamps, and that's what I needed. I needed a second one of them because we had to light from the right to match the motion lighting, because obviously you don't want to have everything completely different. And then we weren't able to get a stand in, so we had to clamp to the bit of upper part of the shells. We had to clamp the lights in on that, and we ended up having to use a super clamp and a grip arm, and it wasn't as good as a vice clamp. And I was like, okay, great. So the vice clamp it is. Now, the kit, the kit I'm trying to distract you from is that I have bought one of the Axoon M7 Pro monitors.
Right.
Now, I already had a small HD 502 bright and a Atomos Shogun 7-inch thing. I didn't need those two monitors. And because I've bought the C400 4 months ago, or however long it was, I wanted a nice big monitor on it. And I thought, if I got rid of those two, I can then basically almost fund the Axoon. And I already use the Axoon wireless transmission stuff. So that's got a built-in receiver, and it will at some point become a built-in transmitter. That's the one. And so that's great, because then that becomes obviously something I can use on the video camera. And when I'm tethering, I can then run the HDMI out of that into the monitor, and then send that monitor using the built-in transmitter to any of my ISOs, right, using the regular receivers. Now, and here's the part where I thought I'd been quite clever. Quite often, you have to work around when you're sending signals like that. You have to kind of work around and kind of go, what's the client seeing? Because every now and then you get feedback on the walkie-talkies and be like, can we get rid of the menu bar? And I'm like, what? And so having now the monitor on the DigiCart sending things, and then you can look at the monitor itself and go, okay, we need to, there's a menu bar on it, or we can rotate it 90 degrees and see a portrait orientation, because I was just shooting portraits the other day. So literally we had the ISO in an RV, 40 feet away outside of the location where the client and the agency were. And so it was brilliant to then have, I didn't actually have it set up that way. I had the monitor receiving just next to the transmitter. And it was excellent to be able to see exactly what the client was seeing. So that's why I bought that, because I think actually that's quite a sensible thing. Plus also I'm selling the other ones, and they'll help. I did also treat myself a little bit to an accessory for it, which I have always wanted. The monitor I thought was a good improvement to the workflow, and I can use it for both, obviously, my tethering and the sending and the wireless receiving. I can then also use it as a director's monitor, and I don't have to build it out with any extra stuff. I've got some like little handles that go on the side. And I did, however, get myself a bit of a treat.
Okay.
There's a company called Bright Tangerine. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No.
So they make moving image stuff, so
Okay.
camera cages and stuff. But for the higher end models, they also do this amazing matte box kind of accessory, which is a fan that can blow air straight down over the filter in the matte box, so you can shoot in the rain and keep the rain off the lens.
Wow.
And it's a really high powered jet of air that comes across and blows water away from the lens. I thought it was super cool.
Wow.
And in action, it's really interesting to watch. Anyway, so Bright Tangerine used to make something called the Titan Arm.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I've always wanted one, but it was a little bit expensive. And I just thought, I just get the cheaper option, fine, whatever. But I've treated myself to one because they've just announced, they discontinued it ages ago. And I was like, oh, that's a shame. I'll probably just never get one. Titan Arm V2 got announced about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I was like, yes. And it now comes in actual black. London fog, I think is what they call it.
What colour did it come in before?
Kind of like a
tangerine colour.
Well, they did a bright orange one, yeah. But then they did have a bright tangerine color.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also had like a blue, kind of like a silvery blue. But really it should have been black.
Right, yeah.
Titan V2 comes in black, and I was like, that looks great, because the cool thing about it is when you unlock the arm, it holds its position.
Right.
And I always just thought that was super clever, because it's, when you're moving a monitor around and stuff like that, you will quite often, if you're showing someone something or you're kind of moving the camera around for one shot, you'll move the arm or you'll move the monitor into position for that one thing and then move it back. And I thought, actually, if you just don't have to worry about undoing it, moving it, clamping it, it's just a nicer, quicker way of working. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to treat myself to one of those. But luckily, again, because a lot of the moving image stuff, as far as like monitors, transmission, because I'm now in the Axoon world, and I have been with their wireless kit now for a few years, and I will say has been completely faultless. I've been so pleased with it. I've never had a single complaint from a client. And it's brilliant. So I'm really excited to get that. But all of the kit I buy now must be funded by selling other kit.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's, it just seems like a silly thing to be doing, to be buying.
It's a good rule to have, one in, one out.
Yeah. And it works really well. And the kit now is streamlined down to the point where, I've got really experienced assistants going, yeah, we didn't want for anything from your kit. And you go, great. I don't know what more I could get.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's a nice kind of solid level.
Regular listeners will know that this is a common refrain from Tom.
Yes, but now, so I don't know if I've mentioned, but I have an ADHD diagnosis, and I'm kind of working through that. And it's been really helpful for me to see and gear a lot of my life choices now around that diagnosis. And I now go, okay, fine. I would constantly pick. I'd constantly eat like digestives and stuff like that. I don't do that anymore. And I would also just be like, oh, I'm going to look up that arm, or I'm going to look up that, knuckle or whatever. And then I would there'd always be something. And I just don't now get that same
racing brain.
Yeah. And I now haven't at any point gone down like that rabbit hole and I'm sure there's probably people listening to this going, I do that. There's evenings where you'd be like, I'm going to research and find out everything I can about this bit of kit, which I think was part of the thing I enjoyed maybe the most.
Was the researching, yeah.
Yeah, because then when the kit arrived, I'd be like, all right, cool, on to the next thing.
Well, it's dopamine, it's seeking that dopamine hit, isn't it? And unfortunately, it's the same. It's not just with kit, like with buying anything. If you buy new shoes or clothes or whatever. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't last. But yeah, I mean, I sometimes get this with, say I'm going on a camping trip or something. I enjoy the process leading up to it as much as I do the actual trip, the kind of expectation of what it's going to be like, but also all the kit prep.
Mhm.
And I think that's probably, we're a little bit kind of nerdy in the sense that we enjoy that side of things. We enjoy kind of getting prepared and thinking through all the scenarios and trying to work
Mhm.
out what we're going to need to pack, and best ways to do that, kind of creating systems and stuff. And I don't think, I think that's probably quite a common trait with photographers and people who work in kind of whenever you meet camera assistants or DOPs, it's also quite a kind of common trait. People like planning and prepping.
Mhm.
So
It's
yeah.
funny, isn't it? I would love to know the relationship between how your brain is made up and what career you end up going into.
Mm.
Because it does feel a lot like, when I speak to a lot of people, it does feel like photography almost attracts our type of brains,
What was
right?
that piece of? Did you ever have to do this piece of software at school? I mean, I'm showing my age here, but we had a piece of software that used to run. It was very basic, and it was basically like a careers piece of software. And I cannot remember what it's called. If anyone does know what it's called and remembers it from kind of circa 1998, please email in. But it was basically, you'd put in a bunch of stuff, and it would spit out very basic job description, like job ideas for you. So it'd be like, oh yeah, you like the outdoors, and you like this. You should be a gardener. And I
Yeah, it
remember
was.
mine would have really divergent things. On one side, it'd be like, you should be a theatre director. And on the other side, it'd be like, you should be an army officer. It's just like, where's the middle of that?
Yes, but I could see, without being funny, the middle of that is probably what you do.
True.
Like,
Yeah, I guess so.
remind me what your degree was in.
War studies. Yeah.
There we go. And what have you become? A photographer,
A
right?
lovey.
But I think it's interesting. The only thing I do remember, my careers counsellor at school, I'm not going to remember their name, but I do remember she did tell me an amazing bit of advice, because she sat us down, all of us, and she said, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play you this and you'll never forget it. And it was a Head and Shoulders commercial. Do you remember? You probably won't remember this. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. And I was
Right.
like, that's actually amazing. Of
Yeah.
course, you don't. So I've always remembered that. But I do also remember having a falling out with my politics teacher in college.
Mm.
And, regular listeners will know, maybe I'm not the easiest person to teach politics to. I don't know. Well, I'll just teach to, maybe in general. I just love learning on my own.
Mm.
I don't, and especially back then, there was other stuff that was more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It was nothing to do with politics. Politics doesn't really interest me. But like, it was never, I don't know. It just never ticked that, probably the dopamine box, right? Like, I never found it very interesting.
Mm.
He wasn't a very engaging teacher, but I do remember, and I used to chat a lot. Hard to believe, I know. But me and him had a bit of a row in class,
Mm.
and he told me, and I should have fired something back, but I didn't know what he was talking about. But he said, Tom Barnes, you'll never go to university. You've got a career in the municipals awaiting you.
Okay.
And I thought, what a rubbish insult. And turns out that's exactly what he meant. And I came away and I was like, what does he mean in municipals? He goes, and they were like, he thinks you're going to be a bin man. And I was like, oh, there's nothing wrong with being a bin man, but like, I kind of wanted to go to uni and whatnot.
To be fair, if you watch Sopranos, I mean, they work in waste.
Well, here's the thing.
Maybe you're saying you're going to be the next Tony Soprano.
Well, he wasn't wrong. No, I think he was trying to belittle me and just basically be like, you're never going to amount to anything. And I'm like, well, without being funny, bin men have got one of the safest jobs, as we head towards the AI kind of revolution.
Mm.
AI can't do that. So, who's laughing now?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I always find it funny when people try and belittle people like that. I will also say, I love the idea. Let's use the bin men as an example. Apart from maybe the smell and obviously dealing with the waste, the idea that you can, and also maybe the early starts, so ignore those bits, but the idea that you can get up, you can go to work, and then when you've finished work, you can forget about work.
Yeah.
That to me is such an alien concept, and one that I kind of go, wow, how freeing must that be to
Yeah.
have a job where you go, you do it, and you leave it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a curse of what we do in the sense that we put so much into it that it's so reliant on you that there's no kind of clear cutoff. I do think that's a big difference to working away from your home, though. I do think like having a separate space to work does help with that, and I certainly found it helped with me in the sense of being quite disciplined. And there was a time when I would leave the office, the studio, and go home, and someone would email me being like, right, we really need this thing. And you'd be like, well, I'll be back at my desk tomorrow in normal hours, because I do feel like sometimes there's an expectation that you're just like able to drop everything. That has become a bit harder recently to keep up that discipline of being like, I'll deal with it tomorrow. But
you're right though, the separation, because for years and years and years, obviously I used to have a studio years ago, which was great fun and would work from there a lot, but really only when I was shooting. And then all the office work would be done in the office at home. Now, obviously, I have the office at home, but the studio is brilliant to just get that break. We were talking about the earlier. A lot of the time, you don't. You close the door in the office at home, straight into, family life, relationships, whatever you've got going on. But to then have that miniature commute, to just have a bit of clear air, but also have the separation. And I now have no gear at the house, so it's brilliant to. And for years, I was just like, why would I pay that money? Or, I already have an office. That now I totally, completely understand and would actively encourage to have that second space, because I've found it so freeing. And, talking about resilience, I find it easier to almost leave, if I get knocked back a load, I find it almost easier to compartmentalize it. That happened there. I can now move on. And I find having the second space really great. I wish, however, I'd spent more time working in it before I had spent a lot of money installing a mezzanine. Because
interesting. Is that because of sunlight on the screen, or what?
No, it's because of sunlight on me. So I don't do any color work at the studio, because it's very bright in there. But
could you strip out all the computers and just run a tanning salon on the mezzanine level?
I probably could. Yeah, I think I might. Well, we're talking about side hustles, right? There we go. So, but yeah, it's now lovely to have a tidy, clean studio, all the stands over there, everything kind of hidden away underneath the back of it. And then I'm able to work on because I've got one of those innovative carts. I have got a thick, spongy standing desk pad, and the desk is at my height, and I literally just work in there with it. I've got a couple of ISOs. So one has my emails and one has probably a YouTube video or something on it. And I will just hammer through the work. And it's lovely to have the sun hitting you, and, and you can watch it kind of like rake through the space in the day. And it's just nice to have like a bright space. And it's, but I get the same feeling when I'm working.
Sit in our dark, dingy potholes.
I know. Well, I can make mine brighter. Look. See, it is quite bright outside, but obviously
there's a skylight up there, but I have to get a long pole to take the curtain back.
Oh, yeah. But that is a problem actually in my studio. The ceilings are about 30 foot high, and they are skylights. And when the sun comes over, the ambient inside goes up by about 2 stops. So when you're like, right, okay, I've just got this beautiful, moody, everything's controlled. Suddenly the sun goes out from behind a cloud, and you go, right, cool. So that's kind of ruined it. But it's nice to have that space. That was a bit of a a sidestep. But talking about kind of resilience, looking after yourself, stuff like that, it is, nice.
Yeah, 100%. And I think if people, I mean, for some people, it's quite difficult to justify the cost of that. I think just looking into finding other alternatives, places you can go and work, other people that you can pitch in with. I mean, I shared this studio with a bunch of other photographers, but as you can hear, there's no loud Mr. Parker today.
God bless him.
It's empty. I'm the only one in. So even though there's 6 of us in here, you can still have days when you don't see anyone, because we're all running very different schedules. So yeah.
And also, there are places that are available for free. They're on the embankment. I think there's the Queen Elizabeth
Hall.
There we go. I sometimes will go and work from there if I'm kind of in between or waiting or early or late for a job. Never late, obviously. But and there's lovely.
I was going to say, if you were late for the job, why would you be going there?
I might be. I was
going to be even later.
No, I am never ever late. But that was a slip. Do you know what though? Can I tell you something that was really funny? I think we'll kind of maybe round this episode out on this. Ready for this? For a little while, was the highest paid photographer on the planet.
Right. Go on.
You impressed? You should be impressed. I can tell you're impressed. Yeah. And everyone else is going, God, Tom, that's impressive. Well, it was an editorial shoot with a Hollywood actor. And I asked him to stand on the spot. I got 5 frames in 4 seconds and the shoot was done. So when you break my fee down per second, I was the highest paid photographer on the planet, but only for those 4 seconds.
I'd like to see. I was going to say, I'm sure Annie Leibovitz could give you a run for your money.
Do you know what though? I sort of feel like, highest paid? For a minute, I was like, people give her more than 4 seconds.
Yeah, they do. Do you remember that shoot she did with the Queen?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. I do love that shot. The one of her in the robes out on is it Balmoral?
I can't remember where they shot them, but there was a couple of. I mean, to be honest, they probably shot them green screen. So.
No. So that one, actually, I know for a fact that one was done in real life,
in camera,
in situ, in camera, and it's an amazing shot. I do. Now, this wasn't the dressy one that was part of that TV documentary. I can't remember which one it was.
Remember.
Yeah, I remember there was a big uproar that she'd insulted the Queen or something. I was absolutely not.
Yeah, I think it was
right.
kind of a manufactured scandal to kind of promote it, if I'm honest. But maybe I don't know.
I mean, the thing is that if I remember correctly, the Queen used to have an incredibly dry, sarcastic sense of humour.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that was what it was, and then it was taken out of context.
I photographed her daughter once, Princess Anne, in COVID, and it was just me and her in a room, me wearing a face mask and trying to have small talk with Princess Anne, which she doesn't do.
Does she not?
No.
No. Okay.
It was fun.
But
slightly terrifying.
I can imagine. To be honest, I've seen those shots though; they're very nice.
She posed okay.
Yeah. Well, and also, give yourself some credit there. But that Leibovitz shot is one that I really do still love to this day. I thought it was a brilliant one. I'll try and find a link to it somewhere.
Yeah, we'll stick it up on the show notes. We should probably wrap this up because we've been yabbering on for nearly an hour, which is...
We have. I hope you guys have found it interesting.
Don't want the hour klaxon going off.
No, we do not. Get off the free plan, guys, etc. We're not. We pay. But yeah, if anyone is feeling like it's a particularly tough time or that their resilience is really low, talk to other people. I can almost guarantee there's going to be people in the same boat. You're not in it alone. Keep on going. Look after yourself. Eat well. Exercise. All the stuff that I talk about but quite often don't do.
I thought you were going to have a Jerry Springer end then.
No, imagine.
Look after yourself and one another.
Till next time. But yeah, thank you very much for listening. And catch you on the next one.
Ta-da!